Food, Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to make a chicken and dumpling casserole that could not be simpler. To go alongside that, we're going to make a one-pan fudge cake and a wonderful green salad with a Roquefort cheese dressing. So we're going to get started on the casserole. Now I have my oven preheated, and here I have 1 can of crescent rolls that I've already taken out of the can, and you want to have 4 squares of the crescent roll on your board. Lightly flour it, just lightly, so that you can roll it out to reduce the seams and to make it fit in your casserole dish as closely as you can. So let me get this one out of the way here. All right, now on your casserole pan, you want to make sure that you spray it with a non-stick cooking spray so that it doesn't stick. Or you could use, butter if you wanted to, butter and flour, but I just use the non-stick spray. My little extra one here just keeps getting caught on my board. I want to stretch it out to where it's almost the size of that. If you can find the sheet crescent roll dough, even better. I'm finding that more and more difficult to find. I don't know if they've discontinued it or what, but anyway. So we just use this and roll the little triangles together and fit it down in your dish, 1 layer. Okay. I'll go ahead and roll this one out. Now you don't need this one quite yet, but we'll go ahead and roll it out. You see, when you take it out of the can, how you've got those seams, you're going to want to pinch those together as best as you can, and then the rolling pin will sort of glue them together, so to speak. You want to have 1 sheet. If you wanted to use puff pastry, you could, but chicken and dumplings is kind of a homey dish. Puff pastry would work and it would be delicious, but it's a little fancier. If you want it to be a little fancier, go ahead and use the puff pastry. That would be fine too. You want to get it as close to a rectangle as you can. Make sure that you lift it up ever so often using your bench scraper if needed. That's the purpose of the flour. I don't think I floured this one as good. That's why we use the flour. Okay. This just takes a few minutes. Once you get this done, the rest is pretty well done. Pinch them together and roll it out. And the rolling pin does help to seal those edges. Okay, oops. All right, that's good enough. Now, in a bowl, you want to have some leftover roast chicken or freshly roasted chicken, or if you wanted to just get a rotisserie chicken and use the meat off of that, or maybe leftover rotisserie chicken, anything like that. You want about 1/2 cup of just diced celery. You want it to be, little bit fine, because we're not going to saute this first. We're just going to do about 1/2 cup, which is, 2 to 3 stalks of celery. I like to cut mine in half and then bundle them all together and mince. I like a big cutting board for things just like this so that I've got plenty of room to work. Okay, that's probably enough. I'll save that one for a snack. Celery is one of my favorite things to eat. Now, just stir your celery into your chicken. Now I have torn this into like bite-sized pieces. You could cut it if you want, but I kind of like the texture that you get with just hand-torn chicken. There's a difference. All right, we want to put about half of this down at the bottom. All right, just kind of spread it out. About half is good. The puff pastry is going to, you know, or not puff pastry, but the crescent dough is going to kind of puff up a little bit. I'm going to add just a little bit. I've got about a cup or so of shredded cheddar cheese. I'm just going to add a little bit, and then I'm going to put my other layer. And on this one, if your seams aren't all the way together, it's perfectly fine. It's okay, because it's going to get covered anyway. Then put the rest of your chicken mixture over top of that. All right. Okay. And then you've got, I have already mixed this. This is 1 can of cream of celery soup and then 1 soup can of water. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of the cheese. Just a little bit. I want to save some for the top. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to my soup. Not too much, because the soup has quite a bit of salt in it. Mix that all together. And then pour this over top of your casserole. Just evenly over the top. Okay, need a spoon here. Grab a spoon. All right. And then just stir that. All righty. And then take the rest of your cheese on the top. Now I'm using cheddar, but you could use the white cheddar, you could use Gruyere, you could use any kind of cheese you wanted. I'm just using cheddar. If you want to add a little bit of a Mexican twist to it, you could use Monterey Jack even if you wanted to. All right, I'm going to pop this into a 300, I'm going to do 325 degrees because I'm getting ready to mix a cake that needs to bake at 325. But if you don't have anything else baking, bake this at 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes until the chicken and all of the ingredients are warmed through and the crescent dough has cooked through. So I'm going to clean up, pop this in the oven, and when I come back, we're going to get started on a 1-pan fudge cake. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, now our casserole is in the oven, and here I have 1 stick or half a cup of butter that I've melted, and I have some chocolate. I'm using bittersweet chocolate because we're adding sugar and I don't want it to be too sweet, that I also have melted in the microwave. I'm gonna get this out. I used a little bit too big of a bowl, but that's all right. Just watch your chocolate in the microwave because it will look like it's not melting. It'll hold its shape, and then when you stir, it really is melted. So this took about 30 seconds. This is about 2 1/4 ounces or so of good quality chocolate. Okay. Make sure I get as much of that as I can. All righty. Now, stir that together with a spoon or a whisk. Stir in some vanilla. All right. I need a whisk. Let's see, did I grab one? No, I did not. So let's grab us a whisk. Edit this part out. Using a whisk. All right, I've got 2 eggs. I want to crack them into the liquid mixture here. Whisk all of that together. Okay, break the yolks. Whisk it all together here. Add a cup of sugar. That's why I didn't add any, or didn't use really sweet chocolate. Okay, get all that whisked together. I just like using a whisk for this. And then we're gonna sift in some flour. Now this is a fudge cake. It's supposed to be thick and creamy. I'm gonna whisk in some flour and some baking powder. I just use a sifter for this. It just really helps to get any of those little lumps out. And then you take your finger and break them down even further. I don't have a sifter, the traditional sifter, and I'm gonna add about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. All right. Then we're gonna stir that together. Till you get the flour combined. I have just a square baking pan here that I have sprayed with the non-stick spray that has the flour in it. The baking spray, I love that stuff. Use it all the time. I'm gonna use a spatula thing to get all that flour mixed in there into the dough. And then I have some chopped walnuts because I like nuts in my cake. If you don't want to put the nuts in, you don't have to, but I think it adds something to it. It kind of goes between a cake and a brownie. It really is very good. All right, the mixture's thick and that's what you want, okay? And we're gonna put this in our pan that we've sprayed. This is gonna go into the oven alongside our casserole. It's gonna bake for about 30 minutes. Okay, kind of spread that out. Ooh, looks so good. Alrighty, now our stuff is in the oven and we're gonna make a quick side dish to go alongside our casserole. We're gonna do some shredded Brussels sprouts with bacon. Now, I love Brussels sprouts, and I know some people don't because I think they've had them boiled to death. Try them this way. I have one pan, a large pan here that I have on a burner that is set to like medium high. And I'm just gonna crisp up some bacon, okay? I always put my little thing on one of these little non-stick lid openers that we all have because it really does keep your boards from moving around. Okay, I'm just gonna let that crisp up. Let me turn it down just a hair. And in this bowl, I have some fresh Brussels sprouts that I have washed. And what I want to do is trim off the bottoms. Okay? And any, leaves that seem to be, brown or wilted in any way. These actually look really good. These are fresh Brussels sprouts, not frozen. They're fresh. Okay, and what we're gonna do is in the slicing disc of my food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor, I'll show you what to do. Do this part up to this point by trimming off the bottom, okay? And any like little brown things like that, you know, it's okay, but I trim them off. I love Brussels sprouts. They're very good and very good for you, but don't serve me Brussels sprouts that are boiled to death. That's what most people associate with Brussels sprouts. But when you shred them or saute them or even roast them, they're delicious. I love them. I absolutely love them. All right, I'm just trimming the bottoms off of some Brussels sprouts. You've seen me do this before with other dishes. All right, last one. Okay, just a little paring knife. Okay, if you don't have a food processor, a good sharp knife, it's okay that I cut the bacon with this because it's going to cook with the bacon. You want to cut them into little small ribbons, just like that, if you don't have a food processor. If you do have a food processor, you want to do them like this because it's a lot faster. Boom. What we're doing is shredding them. I've got the shredding disc in my food processor. You don't have to have them. You don't have to anything. All you got to do is feed them through the tube. I've had this food processor for a long time, and it still is as good as the day I got. I mean, literally 25 years, and it still works great. Okay? Now, see what we have is a pile of confetti shredded up Brussels sprouts. Now we're getting our bacon crisped up. This was very lean bacon. Not a lot of fat in it, so I think I'm gonna actually add just a touch of olive oil. If your bacon has a considerable amount, that's probably about a teaspoon. If your bacon has a lot of fat, you won't need to add the oil, but this was very, very lean. All right, now our bacon has crisped up. I'm not going to remove that fat because I'm going to saute the Brussels sprouts in the pan alongside the fat. Mix it in. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. That would be pretty much to taste. Okay, we want to saute those Brussels sprouts in that bacon fat until they're tender. I love them. If you like cabbage, you will like this recipe. If you've never tried Brussels sprouts, please try. You know, and bacon makes everything taste good. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit more oil because that bacon, again, was very, very lean. Sometimes it's fatter than others. You know what I mean. All right, while that's doing its thing, let's make the dressing for our salad. Now, in the blender, I have some olive oil, about 3/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil in this case. I'm gonna add some vinegar, red wine vinegar, a couple of tablespoons or so, because I like my dressings to be very tangy. I have some salt, some pepper, and some dry mustard. 1 egg, whole egg. All right. And the top, I'm gonna put the top on this, and I'm gonna just start it down real slow. And then this one has a button that you turn. Okay, then I'm gonna add some lemon juice. Remember our rule, you roll it on the cutting board to kind of release those juices. Okay. If they have a pointy end, I like to cut that off for my zester because it works better, or my juicer, not my zester. I am just going to squeeze this right into my blender. Oop, it got me. All righty. I'm not tall enough here. Okay. Depending on how juicy your lemons are, you might need one, you might need two. I'm gonna need two. I want a couple tablespoons of the acid, the juice. This is a quite tangy dressing. I already rolled that one. This one feels much softer. And see, this one doesn't have the little pointy end on it, so I'm not gonna cut that end off. I find you get more juice. Whoop, there's my timer. Look how much juicier that one was, because it was softer. All righty. Okay, now we're gonna put the top back on that loosely and just blend that. And then I'm gonna take the top off and I'm gonna slowly drizzle in another 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. And some heavy cream. On very low speed on the heavy cream. And then some cheese. I'm using Roquefort or Blue, whichever one you want to use is fine. You just want to stir that in, and that's it. There's your dressing. You want to serve that over top of some like romaine or some kind of a heartier green. These are almost done. They really only take a few minutes. You do not want them to be soggy. Okay? Okay, now dinner is done. Here is our wonderful salad. Now I just took some of the dressing and put it over a mixture of romaine lettuce, and make sure that you do stir the dressing up before you serve it, because the cheese will kind of settle to the bottom. So you'll need to stir it up to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of cheese in their dressing. Do not dress the salad until you are ready to serve. And I would just serve this just as is. Honestly, that would make a meal for me. I love salads. Here's our wonderful shredded Brussels sprouts with bacon, and you could add some almonds to that if you wanted to add a little bit of crunch. It really is good. I had a sneak taste, and ooh, that's so good. Here's our finished chicken dumpling casserole. We just used crescent dough and roasted chicken. You can either use chicken that you've roasted yourself or store-bought rotisserie chicken. I use those all the time because they are so good for so many different applications. We mix that with a little bit of chopped celery, put a layer of that, put another layer of the crescent dough, and then I mixed 1 can. I used cream of celery, but if you wanted to use cream of mushroom or cream of chicken, you could absolutely do that. Mix that can with 1 can of the water to stir around the rest of the soup with some cheddar cheese. Poured that over it and baked it for about 30-35 minutes or until it's golden and it's done. Then here is our 1-pan fudge cake that we made. This needs to cool. It's a very think cross between brownie and fudge, and that's what you've got. You've got a very thick, dense, rich cake that is out of this world good. We just melted some chocolate and put that in there. We used some butter and flour and a couple of other things. You could add a little cinnamon to that if you wanted to. I stirred in some chopped walnuts because I like walnuts in my brownies or in my cake. If you don't want to add nuts, perfectly fine. You can leave those out. But there's some quick and easy recipes for you to try any day of the week. Thank you for joining with me, and let me know what you think about the recipes. Try them and let us know. You know, you can always follow on Facebook. We've got a community of, I think now it's around 16,000 people, so you could, you know, post your comments and the things that you like to eat on their Instagram. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.